Hey folks, it's Brandon Schaefer. Welcome to the drawing series videos. This is the first one, kind of an introduction and some materials, but we're going to get into some drawing here shortly. So what I have here in front of me, just a few things to get started with drawing. And that would be a small sketchbook. This one is 5 by 8 pretty much. You could also get a bigger one, 8 by 10 or whatever. So you're definitely going to need some sketchbooks. Also, the next important thing are the pencils. So you can find a little drawing set pretty much anywhere. So a little drawing set, usually you can find a bunch of different pencils, and they come with an eraser and a pencil sharpener. Really cheap. We'll go over what all the different kinds of leads and pencils mean later in a different video. So pick up some of those, or you can get a larger set of them. Whatever your price range is. Also, something that deals less with drawing but will be helpful for painting when we get into thumbnail sketches and such is having some shades of gray markers. See, they're all just different shades of gray. This is really good for value sketching and for doing things of that nature. So if you can find these, that would be cool, but if not, don't worry about it. But just something handy to have around. Next thing are the different kinds of erasers. This is a gum eraser. I recommend these. These really work the best for me when I'm doing drawing. You can also get a kneaded eraser. They look like this, but usually they're completely square and flat. But what you can do is, you use them, and then when it gets black or dirty or something, you can fold it over on itself. So you can shape it and mold it into, a really fine point eraser that you might need. So these are good for really fine details and such like that, and they tend to pick up graphite pretty well. And then this is just a regular old plastic kind of eraser. Not the best, but if that's all you can get, it'll do the job. Pencil sharpener, of course. That'll most likely come with the kit. These will also come with a kit if you get a nice kit. These are called blending stumps. What it is a rolled up sheet of paper, and with a really fine point, and you rub it. They're pretty much for shading, and we'll get into that later. But here, that's what they look like. So we'll get into what those do later. But if you have some, that'd be great. And this you may not really need, but it's pretty much just sandpaper, and if you need like a really sharp point on your pencil, you just kind of sharpen the side of your pencil there to get a nice sharp tip when needed. So it can be handy, but really more for details. Alright folks, so let's get into it here. I usually start out with a 2B. That's usually my favorite pencil to use. And just briefly, I'll go into what these different pencils mean. I'm sure if you have a kit already, you've noticed that there's a lot of different H's and B's and F. Well, here's a good example, an 8B. Well, what B stands for is black. So the higher the number, the softer and darker it's going to be. So the B's are usually, they get softer the higher the number. So right here I have an 8B and a 6B. The 8B is softer and most likely darker than the 6B. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So 1 being, the highest, like 8 being the softest lead, and then it gets harder and harder as you get lower in the B's. Now for the H's, 2H, H stands for hardness. So the higher the number in the H's, say if you had like a 6H, I don't even think they have that in here, but if you did have a 6H, the higher it gets, the higher the number, the harder it gets. So 2H isn't that hard, but if you had a 4H, the 4H is going to be a lot harder than the 2. So hopefully that makes sense. And now if you see an HB, that's kind of in the middle. You know, hard and blackness. This is kind of like a normal pencil that we write with. So I usually use to draw and sketch, I usually use a 2B. It's a little softer, and it allows me to get some darks that without switching pencils, without going to like a 4B or a 6B, I can get some darker tones just for sketching. You know, nothing too detailed. But after drawing a while, you'll realize what pencils you like. It's just like paintbrushes with paint. So we're going to start out with a 2B here. And one of the first things that they do in drawing classes and that you learn to draw is to how to make things three-dimensional. And I have a few tricks, but I'm going to just show you how we do it in this first video. I'm trying to make a short video. So we start out with a simple object, and really where I should start is how to sketch. Most people don't know exactly how to sketch. So I'm going to zoom in here just so you can really see what I'm doing. So when you sketch, you want to draw many different lines. So if you're sketching a circle out, try to find the shape. Within all these different lines, you want to find the shape. Now that's a very messy circle, but you get the idea, is that you don't want to commit. See, this is more of something you want to do, and then you go back and kind of darken, the line. You can, you find the shape within all those lines. You can go back and darken where I've committed. Something you don't want to do with it. When sketching, the initial sketching, you want it really light. Totally committed right at the beginning. Very light compared to you don't want to just draw a circle like this. Very hard. And see now, I mean, that looks, it just, even if I finished it, it doesn't look good, compared to that one. This one is more of a circle because I sketched it. And this one I committed, first time I tried to do it, I just committed to it instead of sketching and refining the edges and finding the best line within those lines. So now if I go back over and sketch over that, and sketching is just different lines. It's just doing lines like, different shapes. So that's what sketching is. And you can see I kind of fixed it up there. So, don't be committed if you're drawing a tree or something or sketching anything. I suggest that you start drawing everything in your house, your whole house layout. Start sketching everything. But if you're sketching a tree, if you're doing like the trunk, don't commit, to this being the trunk. Don't commit to that. Kind of sketch it out first. Get the general idea. You can even get the general shape. Just do really quick, and then okay, maybe it doesn't dip in that much, so you kind of draw another line there, and then once you start finalizing it, you kind of harden the edge where you need to. And then these lighter lines will just disappear over time. It's not even important that you have those lines there. You can go back and erase later on when you're finishing up the sketch or the drawing, but don't commit to the very first. More than likely, it's not going to be perfect the first time you try to draw something. And you saw there with that circle that it was not good at all compared to this one where I took my time and sketched. So keep that in mind when sketching. That's the proper way to sketch. Now, making something 3D, this is two-dimensional because there's no depth, there's no shadow really. So the first thing you have to do, just like in painting, if you follow my painting lessons that you've heard this before, you need to find a light source. So where's the light coming from? I'm just going to say it's coming from over here. Something to that effect. See, make sure you even sketch in the arrow. Never know where you want it to come from. So if the light is right here, there's the sun. Now you have to think three-dimensionally. Is it shining behind it, hitting the back of it? Is it right on the side there? Is it more toward you? You know, it just depends. But we'll say that this is going to be really light, so the shadow is going to be over here. So this is what you need to practice doing, is start shading in really lightly these different areas of shadow. Trying to make things three-dimensional. Now in later videos I'll go into depth on how to shade, different techniques you can do, all these things, but you know, at the beginning I just kind of want to give an overall thing that you need to start thinking about and making things look realistic and determining light sources and things. And this is very important foundation before you even begin a painting, before you begin drawing. Always ask, where's the light source? How many light sources? Maybe there's another light source over here. So then the shadow's just down here. So I mean, there's so many different factors that you need to be aware of. And you know, and then it'll have a shadow like this. You know, and then you have to think, what is it sitting on? Is it sitting on something flat? Is it, you know, there's the background, something like that, a little off. But you get my point. Is it sitting on something like that? Does the shadow dip way down like this? Give more of a 3D look. There's many different things you have to think about. So I want you to just practice things like this. Start sketching everything in your house. Get used to the sketching lines. Get used to the really messy lines. And have fun with it. And just try different techniques. Start doing some cross-hatching. We'll get into that a lot later. But hopefully this helped you just understand how to sketch and knowing that it may not be perfect the first time you try it. But that's what erasers are there for. That's why you have this big canvas of paper. You know, if this one didn't turn out well, okay, start over on this one. Try it again. Try it from a different angle. Try the light up here and then just, you know, okay, where's the shadow going to be? Actually, well, maybe there's another light source here. Okay, so now what do I do? You know, let's just shadow it up here a little bit. You know, depending on the shape of the ball. And maybe if you don't know the answer, you know, get a round object and put two lights on each side in real life and see how does the shadow react. You know, there's probably a shadow over here like this. There's going to be crossing shadows in real life. So like how does this work? You know, this is going to be a really dark shadow where they cross, but there'll probably still be a light shadow over here and a light shadow on this side. So it just depends. I mean, you have to really think about this stuff. And try it out and see how realistic you can make things. Just simple sketches like this, and start trying it with cubes. You know, rectangular objects. Make them 3D, and get used to just doing these quick sketches. It doesn't have to be perfect. Get rid of the perfectionist mentality, and get into the training mode. You know, light's coming over here, you know, that's going to be light, little shadow there. Shadow, but this is going to be the darkest. You know, just things like this. Just play around and have fun with it. And see what you can come up with. And you know, once you can do cubes and all these different objects, that's all nature is. You know, this is just a big cylinder. You know. And then how is the light hitting it? There's a light here, so there's going to be a big shadow coming this way, or whatever the case is. So, play around, get used to the sketching lines. That's all I ask for you this week, and get the materials, and play around with everything, and have fun. Start sketching things in your house. Just get as far as you can. Just sketch things. And if it looks terrible in the end, don't worry about it. Don't stress over it. Do your best. And next week we're going to get into, you know, all this stuff. You know, maybe it'll be shading or how to make things look more 3D using wireframes and, you know, drawing it on there and visualizing it. But we'll get into that when the time comes. But for now, just play around with the sketching lines and see what you can come up with. Have fun. But anyway, I hope this video was helpful in any way, and stay tuned for next week, next Saturday. I'd appreciate it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you wish to see more, and take care of yourself. Peace.